Together. California Congressman Ed Royce, Chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, will be there. He's with me now. And, sir, good morning to you. I know it's classified. How much can you share with our viewers about the importance of that meeting today?
Well, Bill, I can share this with you. It is a national threat, national security threat for the entire country, as we're well aware. The development now of three-stage intercontinental ballistic missiles, as well as the ability to deliver a warhead, has reached the point where America is at the brink of being at risk. And as a consequence, we need to look at what has worked in the past and what hasn't worked and develop a strategy and implement it.
You were in South Korea about a week ago, is that right?
I was.
What did you learn?
Well, one of the things I learned in sitting down with a recent defector, a minister from North Korea who had defected through London, was a short history, if I could just go through what transpired in the past. In 2006, it is the only time, and it was the Bush administration, it was actually the Treasury Department that decided to do it. They deployed sanctions in such a way that the sanctions went on China, on the Chinese banks, and they shut down all currency into the country as a consequence. They also were able to block the flow of energy, that Korea uses as a lifeline, because the Treasury Secretary was so determined at the time. Now, unfortunately, those sanctions were lifted, but we did find that shut down their program at the time because they didn't have the hard currency to run it. The dictator could not pay his generals, and he was in trouble as a consequence of that. And I think the takeaway is there the will? Now that we've passed legislation, on August 2nd, the President signed it, legislation of mine that allows for the sanctions of these Chinese financial institutions. Do we have the will to do that again? And frankly, we have to do it. And that will be my argument
to be
my
clear,
colleagues.
you're talking about China, not just North Korea, because the sanctions against North Korea really have not changed much. And in fact, John Bolton was making that argument yesterday. He said the following, and I'll ask you about this afterwards.
Sanctioning the North Korean economy is a waste of time. It's not really an economy. It's a prison camp, and the leadership doesn't really care what the standard of living of the people is. We've tried that before. Even when it was one of the poorest countries in the world, it developed nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles.
So he's making the case that sanctions won't solve the problem. You're making the case, go after Beijing.
I'm making the case 95% of the subsidy is coming from China. And so we have the opportunity to go after Beijing and shut down the financial institutions and give them a choice between bankruptcy or cooperation with the United States. And we know this, in 2006, that worked. So the question is, what is the administration going to do? They now have the wherewithal with the legislation, with my bill, to do exactly that. And yes, it takes going toe-to-toe with China. But at this point, given the national security threat to the United States, that has to be done.
Yes or no? Does this Congress have the stomach to do that?
Well, I think that as the Congress realizes that soon the entire United States of America is going to be within range of a North Korean ICBM, and Kim Jong-Un is running the place, we don't have another option except to do what has worked. And those financial sanctions, once in place, we cannot lift those until we get compliance. It can't be fits and starts, which is the habit.
Sir, thank you for your time, and we'll see whether or not you get your way. The big meeting happens today at 1 o'clock. Ed Royce from the Hill. Thanks.